Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary. So, long story short, the Resident Evil roguelike project that I've been working on broke, and the only backup I have is near the beginning of the project. And so to cope with this disaster, instead of rewriting everything, I'm starting on a new zombie-related project. And, well, you already probably know where this is going thanks to the title of this video. Indeed, we're going to mash up the gameplay of Plants vs. Zombies with the chaotic nature of Vampire Survivors. No idea how well this is going to go in the long run, but it's better than trying to salvage lost progress because technology betrayed you. Anyway, if you've been here a while, a lot of this is going to look familiar, starting with a grid and list for our plants, and stacks for both projectile and enemy pooling. On to functions, the first four handle our projectile and enemy spawns via our usual pooling system. Our first new function is the one that creates a new struct that'll handle our plant data. That's right, as our next function / constructor shows, we will be using structs for our plants instead of using objects, and each plant is added to our plant list for reference later. The next two functions are used to find plants based on either physical positions within the grid or their numerical position within our plant list. The function following is used to hurt plants. Using the position arguments provided, the previous find plant function returns the plant at said position. That plant is then damaged via our usual hurt system, and our final function damages enemies based on the ID provided via argument. It triggers that same usual hurt system with the option to also knock the enemy back. Next is the ticker function, which is basically the heart of our entire game. But first up are the plants. Using our plant list as a reference guide, the ticker cycles through the plant's timers for both attacking and their hurt phase. It's pretty bare bones for now since we are currently only working with one plant type. My projectiles are next. In an attempt to maybe help optimization, collision checks between projectiles and enemies are done via the ticker. Well, will it actually do anything? I don't know. Anyway, next up was our enemy spawn cycle, which again is currently very basic and bare bones. And finally, we have controls. For now, if the player is able to, left click will create a plant in the target grid cell, triggering all those lovely functions mentioned earlier. Then for testing purposes, right clicking a plant would hurt it until they are no more. Now that's it for the controller object, so let's move on to the player object. Again, nothing out of the ordinary here. The only thing of note is the ability to rotate the player's aim direction with the Q and E keys. The aim direction determines what direction the plant will face when placed. The projectile object is also very typical with our usual code. It moves in any given direction until off screen, to which it is then returned to the pool. And I'm sure it's obvious by now, but the enemy object is also pretty typical in behavior. The enemy's movement direction is updated every 60 frames and is based on the player's position. The enemy then slowly turns towards that new destination position, allowing for more of that lumbering behavior expected from zombie movement. Knockback is then applied with the speed of said knockback smoothed out via lerp. And finally, we have our new draw object, which handles almost everything drawn to the screen. I'm actually unsure if applying this to a surface would improve performance, given it's updated every frame regardless, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, that was all I was able to get to this session. Again, nothing too out of the ordinary, but as you can see, a pretty solid start to the project, which is presented in a similar top-down fashion to the likes of Hotline Miami. The gameplay is pretty expected thus far, very reminiscent of Plants vs. Zombies with the added chaos of zombies appearing from all angles. And I guess what comes next is determining how to handle the tower defense aspect and the player's part in the whole ordeal. And there's already some stuff that I'm eager to try. But as mentioned, this was really off the cuff and I'm not expecting it to work in the long run. I mean, best case scenario, we end up with something fun and weird by the end, but worst case, at least we tried. But for now, this brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary. So if you enjoyed today's entry, consider leaving a like. Be sure to also subscribe and hit that bell if you haven't already. And let me know what you think of this mashup. Do you think we'll be able to pull it off? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.